Hello again, ladies and gentlemen, Saka here, and welcome to Project Cars 2. And I was pretty excited about the news that the 2021 Busch Clash will be raced on the infield Daytona. And my first thought was to hop into Project Cars 2 and give you a look at what that might look like. Now, of course, these are the old style stock cars. They are not going to be the 2021 cars that are coming in 2021, but we can sort of see what the racing might look like, get you familiar with what the track looks like, and get some good in-car shots here of what the drivers will be going through. One thing that I learned from sim racing this particular track with these cars is obviously these cars are heavy, 3,600 pounds, and I mean they are a handful for sure. It's very difficult to get on the gas. You have to have a very disciplined right foot in the hairpin sections for sure. Now, one thing that NASCAR might be trying to do is capitalize on the popularity of the Roval from Charlotte, where they took the infield road course. They actually made an infield road course and made it a part of the chase. Now, making the Busch Clash in the Daytona racing, or the infield track, isn't a big a risk. Since the Busch Clash is just for pride only, it could be a primer for, say, the fall race or something like that. I don't know if NASCAR is going to do something so drastic as leave the Daytona 500 on the high banks and then make the second race at Daytona the infield road course. That would be quite shocking to the NASCAR community, to say the least. But I am cautiously optimistic, as with everything, NASCAR has to adapt to change and draw in new eyes. One thing as well, I heard my best friends talk about it on their podcast, wreckingandracing.com, that next year the Daytona 500 is just a week before the Super Bowl. And the Super Bowl is a major sporting event in the United States. And the drivers themselves like to go to the Super Bowl and participate in parties and whatnot. And racing in the Busch Clash the week before the Super Bowl might not be, conducive for the driver, but they are shortening the weekend just to 1 week, rather than speed weeks being the Busch Clash run on Sunday and then qualifying, and then the pole sitter is on the pole for that entire week while they wait for the qualifying races the following Thursday and racing the next Sunday. They're compressing the Daytona speed weeks into 1 week. This is probably a good cost-saving measure for the teams. NASCAR doing everything that they can to help the owners and the drivers and the teams with their schedules. And I could imagine a 2-week stay in Daytona is very long for the drivers, teams, and even the riders. I mean, they're in Daytona for quite some time, so that might be a good change. As far as the racing product goes, I've seen about 50-50, as most things with NASCAR. When any big change comes out, half the fan base says this is stupid, we should not change anything, we should stay how it was. And then the other half are pretty optimistic, saying, yes, change is good. Obviously, what they're doing now isn't working, so let's do something to bring in new eyes. I think I'm more on the lines of try something, but don't set it in stone. So if this was a one-off race, if the racing's terrible and they're like, okay, that was a mistake, go back to the Busch Clash being the oval. That would be perfectly fine, although they might catch lightning in a bottle like they did with the Roval, and this would be a pretty exciting event just for bragging rights. No points on the line, so NASCAR can experiment with this sort of format. If that is indeed the case, we might see NASCAR do something with the All-Star race, take it away from Charlotte, maybe put it on a road course or something of that nature. But one thing is for sure, the Daytona infield road course is, I think, much more difficult to drive than the Roval in Charlotte. The Roval in Charlotte is much more technical, that is for sure, but the Roval in Charlotte has some elevation changes and some banking to allow the corners to feel more stable. Definitely in the low speed sections of the Daytona infield, you're basically racing on a parking lot, nice and flat, You're trying to get all the power down on a completely flat surface, on a completely flat hairpin, and that's pretty difficult for these monsters to do. At least with the Roval, you know, the infield section, there's some banking there that when you put the power down, the car feels nice and stable. There's also a lot more runoff room here at Daytona, and one thing that will most likely happen is drivers overshooting turn 1. You come down the front straightaway here, and you just dive pretty much straight left into the infield, and you're on the flat. You're coming off the banking, and then you're going down here into the flat part of the course. You're trying to get these big beasts slowed down to a near crawl, and then you're back on the gas trying to get the car pitched. It's a lot more difficult to control, that is for sure. Locking up and doing the wheel hop as you see here, me try to save the car on the downshifts. That would be interesting for sure. The 2021 card will have a sequential shifter though, and from what I understand, even more gears. So instead of trying to find a nice gear ratio for 4 gears, you'll have gear ratios for 6 gears, and the drivers will be able to get through the gears a lot quicker and downshift a lot smoother with the sequential shifter, and that would, you know, produce a lot later braking if you can not have to worry about wheel hopping and you just go through and downshift like crazy, a la Formula 1 or GT. It might feel a lot better to these drivers than these ye old stock cars of Project Cars 2. But hopping in, you know, it took me a while to get accustomed to this event. If you saw my last video from here when I did the simulated 24 hours, we were in a LMP car, and those cars just pivot. They feel great around this road course. The stock car is a whole different beast, that is for sure. You know, a lot of blind corners as well. Those hairpins, you can't really see through them. And if a car gets spun around, there's room for them to spin off, but also there's a lot of room for them to get bottlenecked as well. And this right here is one of the things that people were worried about, is that the Busch Clash will come down to a single file run with multiple seconds that separate the cars. You know, the Busch Clash is known for being exciting, last lap passes, pack racing as Daytona tends to bring, and you make that a road course. It's going to be a bigger shock than when the fall race at Charlotte decided to do a Roval, because Charlotte you get strung out single file. It's definitely not 4 or 5 second gap, but I think these straightaways are long enough that the drivers are going to get separated, and we're going to see possibly a runaway winner. Those who are great on the road course may be able to pull away and sort of make short work of this course. We don't know much about what it is going to look like. They're actually still testing the 21 car now as we speak. So, you know, I'm sure package will change, the grip will change, possibly the brakes or the transmission may change between now and then. But just taking a few laps around here so you can see what a race may look like. Watching from home on TV, I mean, pretty strung out as of now. Of course, sim racing is sim racing and not actual racing, but, you know, it's a pretty good indication of what may happen. Of course, next year, whenever myself and Brandon do the NASCAR Racing 2003 season championship series, we always start at the Clash, and as long as someone has made the Daytona infield road course, we're going to give it a shot. Hopefully as well, someone will make the 2021 body style, and we can go all in. But that will do it for me. Like, share, and subscribe if you are so bold. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you for the next video. Take care.